And I didn't really think he would call, but I didn't want to hurt his feelings, so I gave him my phone number and forgot about it. About 2 weeks later, the phone rang. Recently, a story began circulating on social media about an old diary allegedly connected to Clint Walker, the towering Hollywood star of the 1950s. According to the claims, the diary describes conversations, encounters, and impressions Walker formed while moving through classic Hollywood, painting a deeply unsettling picture of the era. It suggests that behind the polished images of unity, honor, and heroism projected on screen, some admired figures privately held views that were harsh, exclusionary, and deeply rooted in racial prejudice. It's important to understand that what follows is presented as alleged recollections and interpretations, not established fact. Much of this material remains debated, unverified, or drawn from public statements that already exist, mixed with personal opinions attributed to Walker. Still, the discussion has reopened long-standing questions about Hollywood's past and how power, fame, and prejudice often coexisted. One name that repeatedly surfaces in these discussions is John Wayne. Wayne, the iconic face of American westerns, such as Stagecoach and True Grit, was long seen as a symbol of strength and moral certainty. Yet his 1971 Playboy interview is real and on record, in which he expressed views about race that shocked many, even at the time. In that interview, he spoke about believing in white supremacy and opposing rapid social change, statements that caused lasting damage to his public image. Critics argue that these views reflected broader attitudes in Hollywood during that period, while defenders say they must be understood in historical context. Either way, those words remain part of his legacy and are still debated today. The alleged diary also speaks critically of Joan Crawford, one of Hollywood's most powerful stars. Crawford is remembered for performances in films like Mildred Pierce and Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, but she has long been associated with stories of difficult behavior on set. Claims that she resisted working with black actors or opposed inclusive casting have circulated for decades, though historians note that Hollywood's studio system itself often enforced segregation and exclusion, sometimes regardless of an actor's personal beliefs. Separating individual prejudice from an industry-wide system remains complicated. Charlton Heston is another figure often mentioned in conversations about shifting beliefs. Early in his career, Heston expressed conservative views and associated with political groups that later drew criticism. What makes his case more complex is that he publicly evolved, becoming a visible supporter of civil rights later in life. For some, that growth matters. For others, his earlier statements still leave a stain that cannot be ignored. Bette Davis, Steve McQueen, Olivia de Havilland, Gary Cooper, Burt Lancaster, Robert Mitchum, and Audie Murphy are also frequently named in discussions about old Hollywood and race. In each case, stories range from documented quotes and career choices to secondhand accounts and personal recollections. Some of these actors worked within an industry that routinely marginalized black performers, offering them limited or stereotypical roles. Whether this reflected personal belief, industry pressure, or a mix of both is still argued by historians and critics. What is clear is that classic Hollywood was not the golden, inclusive world it often appeared to be. Many black actors were denied leading roles, fair pay, or even basic respect, regardless of talent. Sidney Poitier's rise was the exception, not the rule, and even he faced resistance from studios and co-stars along the way. The renewed attention around these stories doesn't aim to erase classic films or deny their cultural impact. Instead, it forces a more honest look at the people behind the screen and the system they operated within. Legends can be talented, influential, and deeply flawed at the same time. Acknowledging that complexity doesn't destroy history, it clarifies it. Hollywood has changed, but it didn't change easily, and it didn't change quickly. The conversations happening now are part of a longer reckoning with the past, one that asks whether we can appreciate art while still confronting the harm done by those who created it. These stories, disputed or documented, remind us that progress often comes only after uncomfortable truths are brought into the open.